Welcome back to another installment of Content Conversations for Educators. Very excited to introduce a really wonderful producer to you today. My name is Dan Feldkamp. I'm the director of our K-12 streaming program at Infobase. Infobase is a provider of educational resources for districts, schools, colleges, academic learners for life, whether or not we have our early literacy learners, K-12, college, academic, and then in the public library market, we offer resources for that lifelong learner. And I'm really excited to share the story of Glow Media Project, how they came about, and the films that they produce. With that being said, thank you all for joining. I just did do a quick ping. It looks like we are live. So we're good, ladies. So I have today with me Trish Glowacki and Kayla Berry. So thank you both for joining us. And Trish is the executive director of the Glow Media Project. And she introduced us to Kayla Berry, who is the producer. You were kind of, everything on this, the producer, the acting director, screenwriter, editor of the film King of the World, which we'll be discussing today. So again, welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Wanted to make sure that audio worked. Great. So today we're going to be discussing mental health. Trish has a whole portfolio of films addressing different topics. Warning, Take As Directed was her first film about prescription drug, an overdose of prescription drug. There's Do Supermodels Eat Popcorn, Gotta Get It, about stress, teenage stress, This Is Me, and then the newest film, King of the World. And so today we'll be discussing how to talk about mental health, how to use film to expand those conversations, whether or not it's in the home or in the classroom, and hopefully educate everyone a little bit more about this important topic. Before we get started, I do just want to point out that there is so much support on this topic today. We're hoping to provide that by way of discussion. But there's always help. If you or someone is struggling, we're going to share the crisis text line. Text hello to 741-741, and there's always help. So we want to point that out, that if you find yourself today maybe connecting with some of the topics we're talking about or recognizing this in someone that reach out and get the help. So we'll come back. Glow Media Project has a lot of really fantastic resources that make the conversations and the help very easy to get. So with that being said, Trish, again, welcome. Could you please tell us a little bit about the Glow Media Project and how you started the organization?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Ann. This is a wonderful opportunity to talk about the importance of mental health education. And thank you also for pointing out the crisis text line, and especially at this time. I mean, mental health crises are they're skyrocketing right now during COVID. And I mean, it's everybody's suffering. So it is important to talk about depression, anxiety, and all the other mental health challenges that are affecting people today. So the Glow Media Project is a nonprofit organization. We were officially founded in 2016, and we produce short films with accompanying guides addressing various mental health topics. And we are completely philanthropy funded. So we do not charge for our films or guides and other resources. And we want to keep it that way so that educators, parents, and/or students can have access to our library of short films and guides. They're available to anybody, anytime, free of charge on our website, glowmedia.org, GLOW media.org.
And Trish, it's been great working with you and learning more about the films that you produce. They're very unique. Infobase is very lucky to be able to offer them to the teachers and the students that use our services in the classroom, and now especially in an online learning world, as that is a growing community of ours. You have an extensive background in theater and started off kind of from a theater background. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that was like transitioning from producing for the stage as opposed to producing for the screen?
Sure, sure. My background is in children's theater, to be perfectly clear, and my my greatest role was probably that of Chicken Little. Chicken Little or Little Red Riding Hood. Those are two of my favorite roles. That's when I was acting. I've also directed and produced a few productions for young theater goers. So when I did my first film, Warning, Take Only as Directed in 2014, it was originally written as a musical stage play, because I feel very strongly that to really affect young people in a classroom environment, they can't turn away from live actors. They can close their eyes with a film, they can tune out to a speaker, but live actors on stage, nobody's gonna fall asleep in that, no matter how boring the play. But anyway, we wanted to do Warning, Take Only as Directed as a stage play musical, but we realized we wanted to reach a broader audience than we could do with a cast traveling around the country or just keeping it local, based in Washington, D.C. So we turned it into a screenplay and a short film. It was 26 minutes long, and it's been very, very well received, viewed by over 750,000 students nationwide at last count.
Wow.
So it's been pretty effective. Amazing. Yeah, and the feedback we got from that film encouraged us to keep going and make more about other mental health topics.
I'm glad you did. And that's, I think, how you and Kayla's paths crossed. Could you tell us a little bit about how you and Kayla met?
Yeah, well, in all the films we've done, we try to find an emotional component, a passion behind the topic. For instance, the Warning, Take Only as Directed was based on my own personal history with my sons. King of the World addresses bipolar disorder, and Kayla had a brother who lived with bipolar disorder. She knew it inside and out and brought her eye to the set and to the script, and the passion is it really comes through thanks to that emotional connection and passion that Kayla brought.
It does come through on the screen. Kayla, could you give us a bit of a summary of the film King of the World?
Yeah, so it follows a high school student. His name's CJ, based off of my brother, Casey, and it kind of follows his experience going manic. It starts off with him doing his normal day-to-day things, and then it just shows the progression of mania within the 10 minutes within the 10 minutes of the film. And so in addition to that, we also wanted to capture my brother's spirit. So there's an element of the character he's just very happy, he's loving. So it's showing the mania progression, but also showing just a very loving and genuine character that I think a lot of people can see and relate to and root for almost.
I think
100%.
I just want to add one thing on that, Kayla. I think what you captured in the character of CJ, who's based on your brother, was that your brother was a person living with bipolar disorder did not define him.
Right.
So we saw the character living a very full, happy life, in addition to having this difficult diagnosis.
Right. Yeah.
And I think you really succeeded in doing that. I know I can say, watching the film, you fall in love with CJ. He's just so charismatic, and the character in the film, you could just tell he was just so authentic in his drive and what he was doing, and then to see that mania progress, that was an eye-opening experience, to see just how innocently that happened with him, and it was a really interesting perspective, and I think amazing from a film point of view that you were able to portray all of that in under 10 minutes too. You made it a classroom experience, or something that, you know, someone could come here and watch this film. And I know I feel much more educated about bipolar and the mania episode. And so not only did you, it sounds like, capture, you know, your brother's spirit, but you did it in such a captivating way. So hats off. And I can't believe this. So this is your first official film, Kayla, is that correct?
Yeah, it's my first official one. I did a film program abroad my junior year, and that was my first time ever doing anything with film. And I made a short film while there, but this is my first official film following that experience. So yeah.
Right. And you're not someone that lets the grass grow too green under their feet. You're a recent Amherst grad, and you're applying to med school. Well, all of this
Yeah.
while also pursuing creating a film. So yeah, your passion for helping others is quite clear. What was it like creating this film, knowing that you were portraying your brother and the experience that he had? What was that like?
I think it almost came at the perfect time for me, because I found out he passed away while I was abroad. And so I kind of had a decision then to either, you know, come home or stay abroad. And I think I chose to stay abroad because I wanted a creative outlet. And it was difficult being abroad, but I felt like I had that creative outlet. And so I didn't mention this, but Casey wanted to be an actor and he wanted to be in film. So I feel like whenever I do anything with film, I'm doing it almost in honor of him. So for the film to come immediately, I found so much, it was therapeutic to creatively work on the film abroad. And I almost was like, oh, well, what am I going to do? You know, that's also therapeutic for me coming out of this program. And then immediately it was the Glow Media project. So it just kind of really worked out, and it allowed me to just process everything that had happened while doing something in honor of him. And I felt as though I was doing something productive out of my pain, and that I was honoring my brother, even though I was, you know, very hurt at the time. So it really honestly helped me deal with my brother's passing. And also just, I mean, the best thing you could do, I think, is honor someone after they pass away in a way that reaches people and helps people. And he was very kind, very loving. His goal, he wanted to do film because he wanted to help people. That was his why in doing it. And I think that bringing this film through the Galvinia project is doing that.
100%, definitely. I know I've said this to you so many times, especially lately, but I'm just in awe of your courage to do that, and to take your experience, turn it into something that is so empowering and so well done as well. We have so many different films about mental health, and yours really resonated in a very current way as well. So I think you took a different approach. How do you feel, or rather, what do you hope your viewers feel or experience from watching your film?
I think there's two audiences kind of that this is going to reach, two different, you know, categories. One are people who are dealing with bipolar disorder, or they have a relative, they see it firsthand. So for those people, I hope they can see the film and they can relate, and they can say, oh, this is something that other people experience. I know in my family was going through it with my brother, we felt like we were alone, but it's such a visible disease that other people like will be like, oh, something's up. And so as we shared our experience, we found more and more people that had dealt with it. So for those, that audience, I hope that they can relate and that they can find other people too that are going through it, and they know that their family, they're not alone. And then the audience that just isn't dealing with it, doesn't know anything about bipolar, I hope that they learn something about it. They can see the signs of what it looks like to go into mania, just in case they're a relative of theirs or they start to go through it, they know that it's okay to reach out for help, to call a therapist, and they know the signs to look for if that happens. And then they also start to have conversations so that these kind of two groups of people can come together and have these conversations together, and it kind of the stigma just goes away. That's the kind of end goal with
and that's the goal of all of our films at the Glow Media Project, is to reduce stigma and reduce correct misconceptions, and let everybody know that mental health affects all of us. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Kayla nailed it with King of the World, and we tried to replicate that with the other films. So it's really just a way to start the conversation and have some resources to help guide that conversation.
So important. And as we're talking through this and experiencing this, mental health is at the topic of so many conversations. And you're right, that stigma, we are trying to remove it so that people can feel comfortable talking about it and getting the help they need. How do you feel the medium of film, right? We all want to talk about mental health, or hopefully we encourage more and more people to talk about mental health. But the medium of film is really unique. And especially in today's world where teaching, if we're looking at a classroom instruction, might be more online than ever before. How do you think film and portraying mental health with film could help an educator address some of these topics that they might not feel comfortable maybe teaching or talking about directly?
Well, I feel very strongly that the arts are the best, are a wonderful medium for starting conversations about sensitive topics. And I look at our films as sort of an icebreaker for the teacher, for lack of a better term. Okay, we have this heavy topic we're going to discuss today. How do I start? Well, you show the film, and then it immediately, it's only 10 minutes long, and we purposefully keep the films to 10 minutes so that they can be viewed in 2 separate 5-minute chunks if that's the case, if they can't be shown in a full 10 minutes. But it's just a way to start the conversation, because then you have, rather than a teacher standing there lecturing, bipolar disorder is this. These are the signs. This is what you look for. This is where you go for help. You have a story that you can show the students, and then you can talk about those things. And then you can talk about the characters in the film. And it's really just a tool for the teachers to start that difficult conversation.
And we hear that a lot, that film is that icebreaker. The conversations that you want to have, it's hard to talk about it when maybe the person you're wanting to talk about is yourself or someone in the classroom. When you're talking about those characters and what they're experiencing. And something that you shared with me previously too is, sometimes that doesn't always happen in that classroom or in that direct viewing or that conversation. But, it's interesting for a student to see the reaction that other people, their classmates have to a film. And maybe to say, okay, they watched that film and the way they spoke about it, I feel like I can open up to them. I could trust them. The way they handled that made me feel like they were someone I could go to. And even that experience, whether or not that student or someone wants to talk about their own experience with maybe mental health, but kind of being able to have that helpful link and give that broader understanding. I thought that was a really unique perspective that you shared with me, Trish. I wanted to share that as well. Sometimes the learning doesn't always happen right in that moment, and we know that with educators.
Yeah. And one thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to finish your question. Why is it important to have these online right now? And obviously, so many schools are completely virtual right now, and so there's even fewer tools than ever for educators. And to have a film online, it can be pitched as a virtual field trip. We're going to go to the movies today, make it kind of a special event. It's anything to be creative and to capture the students' emotions right now. I know that when COVID hit in March, the Glow Media Project, we did a big push with educators. It's like, we've got all this online stuff. Don't forget about social emotional learning right now. And feedback we received was, oh yeah, you're right, great. Right now we're just trying to figure out how to teach 5th grade math online. So we'll circle back whenever we want to get, into the emotional stuff. Now we're, starting the fall semester online, and educators are saying, okay, we need the full complement of educational materials. We've got to get social emotional learning back on track.
Yeah.
And it's a great tool for that.
And as a company, InfoBase is recognizing that. So hearing you talk about that, I have to say, we're leading a 6-part workshop. The first session is tomorrow, actually. It's a free 6-part workshop from some experts in the field, from a company called Cell and Beyond. And one of the things they've shared with me in this process of collaborating on this workshop is Cell isn't, either you're going to deal with it one way or another, right? If you don't deal with it and talk about it, you're going to deal with the effects of not talking about
Exactly.
it. And so, you're going to be dealing with it. And it shouldn't be, they had another slogan. So the folks from Cell and Beyond are watching this. I'm sorry that it was, Cell shouldn't be, it is the play. Like it is the whole part of learning. It isn't something. Right. Thank you. That's it. And so that is really important. And I think your films really bring that to light, and just talking about even the characters and Trish, I think you just really did an exceptional job. Is the characters are so relatable, right? You're watching this and their responses to their friends, it's so authentic. Sometimes it's really hard to portray those instances, and we know our students sometimes are the hardest critics. They're like, oh, I would never say that, and you've just really done a great job of creating those authentic responses so that we can.
In King of the World, that was all Kayla, the acting coach, and also we were so fortunate to have Kayla on board with that film, just due to her age. I mean, she graduated college, when did you graduate, Amherst?
20, oh my God.
2018?
2019.
2019. Okay, so she just graduated college. So we spoke, I mean, we workshopped this script, and in the writing process, it was, well, Kayla, what did you have in high school? What was your mental health education? How did you learn about these types of topics? And what did you say, Kayla?
There's nothing. There's I think that, and a lot of your films, they reach now the high school audience, right? And some, if it's appropriate enough, middle school, right? But I think there can be this idea that once you get to high school, that's when, you can, middle school parents or middle schoolers can say, well, we'll just push it off to high school. So then you have this idea, okay, people are having these conversations in high school, but they're not. The only conversation that I had was bullying. And when I met peers outside of my school, that was kind of the same conversation that everyone was having. And then you get to college and you're like, okay, well, maybe this is where the conversation, and it's even, these films will be great for college students and just to on their own watch, or, if they're, I don't know, but you think even in college, they're not having these conversations. So honestly, the only time I had these conversations was really in my personal life, and then a lot with working on this film. And when I started working on the film with Trish and the conversations that you and I had, it became even more aware to me that like there's just a lack of conversation happening about this.
Yeah. The helicopters are, I live near the vice president's house. The helicopter's going over. If you hear that low rumble, sorry.
It's okay.
Oh. It's the world we live in. Zoom brings all these things from our lives together, I think. And Kayla, that's such an interesting perspective. I thought you were going to say, oh, we talked about it. And I was thinking, oh gosh, well, I'm so glad things have changed, because 20 years ago when I was in high school, we didn't talk about it. To hear that 20 years later, or, there's this conversation's missing. And so we really, I think I speak for some teachers and maybe parents too, is sometimes we don't talk about the things that we don't know, right? It's hard to teach our kids, our students, about things that we don't feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. and your films do a great job. We're getting some comments, and I'm sorry for those of you on the comment board. Your stories are so I'm so engaged in them. One of the comments is that the nice thing about film too is that the viewer can keep going back to it and share it. And so that's absolutely right. If you find that, this film resonated, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to share this with the parents. And even now with an online learning environment, you might find that the parents are viewing this with their children. So that is a really great point, Zena. Thanks for reminding us of that. Is just, making this content accessible is really a key, so that students and teachers have that available for them. And it's one of the things InfoBase is very proud of, is that we provide these curated collections that teachers can trust and parents can trust. And, King of the World, it actually just was released today on our site. So I encourage you, if you're,
thank you.
Yeah, we're excited. Yay. Live. So if you're a current subscriber, I really encourage you to search King of the World on our video platform. It's currently on Learn 360 and Classroom Video on Demand. After this, I think we might have to put it on our college platform as well, Kayla. That was a really good suggestion. And so they can view that film, but there's other films too. And Glow Media Project, as I mentioned in the beginning, they've addressed opioid addiction, eating disorders, teen stress. Kids are under so much stress these days. And then King of the World. And Trish, you have a film that I think you're wrapping up some production on. Would you want to tell us what's next from you?
Well, our next film, which is tentatively titled Glad I Stayed, addresses the very difficult topic of suicide. And we have a script ready to go, but we can't film right now due to COVID. So we could do it on a far smaller scale than what we want to do. So we're going to wait until things open up again, so we can film it the way we would like to, and it'll be released hopefully in 2021. In the meantime, we're working on a documentary titled Project 2020, which is a series of Zoom focus group interviews with teenagers from across the country, talking about what life has been like during this unprecedented year. Everything from COVID, online learning, current events. We've had some pretty amazing interviews, and hope to have that project released early 2021.
Wow, you work with so many young people. I feel like you really have your, the finger on the pulse of what our young people are experiencing. There's a statistic on your site. I wrote it down so let me get it right, but it was by the age of 14, half of all lifetime cases of mental illness begin. And that shocked me. And Kayla, I thought of that when you said, when we're in middle school, we'll think, okay, that's something for high school. Or when you're in high school, you think it's something for, it's always something that maybe is pushed off. And so that statistic really rang through. And Trish and Kayla, I don't know if you, with your films, when you're writing the scripts, when you're planning them out, and maybe this is more just like a filmmaking question, how different is the final product? So when you first start brainstorming, I don't know if you kind of have the whole, treatment of what you think it's going to be, how different was, and maybe we can just talk about King of the World, how different was it from what you first imagined it to be?
I would say, I think it's always going to be different than how you imagine it. Especially when we got to set, there were certain conversations that, didn't come as naturally for the actors. So things change, and like on a day-to-day things change, but I think they change for the better. Just working with your actors to make sure they feel more comfortable. I know the main thing that I was kind of looking for, and Trish knows this, was the kind of progression of his mania and making sure that Matthew was portraying that. And I think I had a fear that visually we wouldn't be able to capture that within the 10-minute, and we had a montage. And so I was like, this sounds very nice on paper. Like, this sounds like this will look good, but then you never know how it's going to turn out. And while it didn't turn out exactly how I envisioned it, it did turn out in a way that I do feel portrayed the progression of mania within that short time span. So yeah, I think of course it's going to divert from the script, but it works out in the end. It still looks good. It just looks different.
Yeah, I think that one of the major challenges in our films is trying to keep them to 10 minutes. I mean, these
Mhm.
are complex topics. And the first film that I did, Morning Take Only as directed, that one changed tremendously from script to screen. And it was 26 minutes long. It was going to be an hour originally. And the really one of the few negatives to that film, feedback wise from educators, was that it was too long. So we got that message and are keeping all the new films are 10 minutes or thereabouts. And it's just hard to get a complicated topic in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it worked out in the sense that like we made sure to have it look like that it was different days within that time frame. So you can kind of say, well, is this the next, like you can't definitively be like, this is the next day. This could be a week from now, or this could be, within that montage. And I think, and then Trish has guides. So I'm sure it's honestly a great conversation starter for a student to say, hey, how long was that? Like, how long did it really take for CJ to get manic? So,
and those are some of the questions that are in the guides to help the teachers, because the kids can be really critical. Wait, that didn't happen that way. It's like, okay, how did it happen? Mm-hmm. They can be critical about it, but it's the way to get them talking about the topic, which is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because that's an important aspect of what you do. All of the films have not only an educator guide and a student guide, but also a parent and guardian guide. Mm-hmm. And so that's great for teachers when they come to a film and they have that resource available to them, especially when it's something, like this topic that might take some education to the person that's teaching it or starting that conversation. Those are so valuable. So thank you so much for doing that. I can tell you, in the space that we work, that is so appreciated by our teachers. And maybe Trish, I don't know if this is a question more towards you, but what would you say would be a defining difference between like a teacher or educator resource and one that's geared more for parents and guardians?
Good question. The educator guide has the lesson plan. Okay, so all of our films include a lesson plan that adheres to Common Core standards, because that was the standard when we started doing these back in 2014, as well as ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors. That's the American School Counselors Association core values, for lack of a better word. So we have, those are the lesson plans that the teachers will be teaching. The parent or guardian guide will say, your child will be reviewing this film. It addresses these topics. So it's just smaller, but it includes all the resource guides for that particular mental health topic being addressed, and just gives a snapshot of what the kids will be seeing. And the student guide is the same, just a condensed version of the educator guide. And all of our guides are reviewed by psychologists and psychiatrists and professionals in the mental health field to ensure that we have the latest and most up-to-date.
They're very well done. They're very thorough. And like you said, that lesson plan and the teachers, that really helps for teachers to be able to fully integrate it. So I know that there's people that may be watching this and are curious. Maybe they joined us because they're curious about, maybe something with mental health, bipolar disorder, whether or not be for them themselves or someone they know. How do you feel putting this topic into a film creates a different experience for the viewer, for someone? So if you're kind of reading about maybe bipolar disorder, if you think yourself, your child, a student, if you're reading about it as opposed to seeing it, what would you say would be the difference? Kayla, you kind of were talking about really wanting to get that mania right. And for me, that was the most I think influential parts of the film is seeing that mania. That was so that was my experience. I don't know if you had kind of more to add to that.
Yes, I think with the mania, obviously, this was I was using a very specific example, my brother. But if you read about it, there's certain things that are kind of consistent, like fast, speaking very fast, disconnected thoughts, delusional. I'm trying to delusional thinking. And so those kind of things are definitely in the film. And I think with working with Matthew, who is the actor that played CJ, we worked a lot on his face and making sure that the expressions on his face came across as though he was manic, and kind of just in his own world. And so that we worked a lot on, but also we wanted to show that for relatives, which it may not be something that people actually read about, because and this was an experience that my family had, is that you may not know right away that your loved one is going into a manic break, even if you know that they are bipolar and they've had manic breaks prior. It can be hard to really figure out if they are going manic. And we show that in the beginning. He walks past his mom and he goes upstairs, and it's really the friends that find out that he is going manic, because they are the ones that kind of are in school with him. And so we wanted to show that, because that is true. Sometimes your own family members need a little help from friends to figure out what is really happening. And so that was important to show that it was okay for friends. And I know Trish, this was important too. Like, she really emphasized this, as friends coming to the parents when things were getting a little.
That's one of the important common denominators in all of our films, is that it's trying to empower the student, the teen, to know how to help his or their peers.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's, you're a teenager, you're spending more time with your friends than with your family, not in COVID. But in a normal year, they're often off with their friends all the time. And how can they empower themselves to seek help for their friend whom they feel might be suffering?
Right.
And that was such a great part of the film. And I love that you are looking to empower that student to, or the friend, the young person, and how to act. You showed, and like you said, that manic behavior. This wasn't just an afternoon where CJ in the film found himself stressed out and was overreacting. It was multiple days, and showing that progression. And you're right, the way that his friends saw him. When you watch the film, you'll see how they take some of those very natural steps that we all do when we see someone and we think they're kind of having a struggle or having a hard time, and no one wants to push too hard at that point. Or I would say very few of us want to push too hard and say, no, stop, you look like you're really having a bad day, or no, I'm not going to believe that answer, stop. No, we want to believe, okay, this is fine, this is just a rough afternoon, I don't want to read too much maybe into it or something. But then to see that trend, and then to have his friends be able to approach his parents, and then he could get the help that he needed. I want you all to watch the film, because the way that the experience is portrayed is really powerful, and unique. And so I don't want to take too much from the film, but I think that seeing that is so much more powerful than maybe reading about what a manic experience or a mania is like.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more thing, is that sometimes when you read about it, it's very factual. So you're just listing symptoms. And for someone who is not familiar with it, what you don't know often sounds scary or frightening, especially if it's it's a topic that's, you don't really know well. And so it was also important to show CJ, getting help from, at the end, this woman, and just needing help and not being something to fear, because with especially our personal experience with my brother, we were always, so I mean, there were moments where he was in Florida and we got a call from just a nice person who was just like, hey, I found he's out here. And so we're so grateful for the people who did that, who were kind. So really also emphasizing that, if you do see someone going through what you think might be mania and they look like they need help, to help, because we are so grateful for the people that did help, and helped us find him when we couldn't.
Wow. And to de-escalate the situation, to get the person help, right? That's a huge thing. And there's a lot. We have another film called Deescalate, from another great producer, and there's a line in that as you're saying, that reminds me of. And they said sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between someone that's giving you a problem and from they're having a problem. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you see this person, think they're being challenging, or they're not listening, or they're having a hard time is what they're having. And, we don't need to give them a harder time. Sometimes just trying to stop, get them the professional help they need is the best thing in de-escalating that situation. Because, you obviously are much more experts on that, but I can imagine that a mania needs a professional help. You're not going to probably solve that. That's something that is best handled by professionals. And so, again, I do feel the need, just as we're getting deeper, and I have a few more questions here and we'll wrap this up, but we're here today with Glow Media Project talking about mental health, talking about bipolar disorder. And if you are hearing this, if you're thinking through this and feeling like this is someone I do just want to shout out again to the crisis text line. It's as simple as texting hello to 741-741. And that help, sharing that message. You are not alone. It's completely confidential. It's free, available 24/7. So if you find yourself seeing someone that looks like they're having a manic episode or a mania, again, get that person the professional help they need. And so I wanted to just share that again. So just a couple more questions for you. I know we're kind of getting close to the hour. We have lots of comments coming in, lots of loves, lots of the new care symbol. This is obviously a topic that is very close to your hearts. You're very passionate about it. Both of you started your filmmaking from personal experiences. How do you feel your loved ones would respond to your films? I don't. Who wants to go first? Trish, maybe.
In my case, I think my son Charlie, who sadly died of an OxyContin overdose 8 years ago now. 8 years ago. He was a thespian. He was in college, and he was 1 week shy of his 21st birthday when he died. And all he wanted to do was help people, to ensure that they didn't walk the same road that he did, with drugs and alcohol and depression. He suffered from crippling depression. Anyway, so I know I can feel him on my shoulder right now. He's smiling. He's so happy that that we're doing this, and that I collaborated with Kayla on King of the World. And I think he's proud. He wanted to help people, and we're doing the best we can to help people.
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, I think it's a.
It's okay, honey.
Oh, please.
I think he is very happy. I think when Trish said that her son wanted to help people, that touched home, because that's really Casey's heart. It was to help people, and anybody will tell you, like, on their day-to-day, that's what he did. So I think that the fact that this film is going to do that is something that he definitely would be happy about. And we're just very grateful that, I think that Trish, out of her own experience, has done this to help people. And there's such a passion with what she does, and just getting the conversation started. And I've never come across, and I'm not just saying this because I've worked with the organization, but to me, an organization that is just so important and that is spreading the word in a way that is honestly actually starting a conversation. So I think he would have loved to be a part of it. And he is kind of on the big screen. That's what my parents like to say. He's, in a way, you know, getting on the big screen. So, yeah.
I'm just so inspired by both of you, and so just so proud to be able to collaborate with you on this, and bring your message to our communities. So I guarantee we're going to do our best to share your message as loudly and as strongly as we can, because I think you're absolutely right that they would be more than proud of how you're sharing this important message. And anyone that watches your films will see that passion and hear that authenticity in your process. So so thank you both for sharing about this film, sharing about your lives and your experiences. You know, I think this is the kind of conversation I personally feel changes people's hearts, changes people's perspectives. Opening up that conversation sometimes is challenging, but the way that you've done it is easy to do. You walk people through the process, you talk them through it with the film, with your guides. And so I'm just so thankful for your time today. So thankful for the work you do. And I'm hoping everyone that is here today or that watches this film will find this interview, because hearing it from both of you is just really is beyond touching. So again, I'm in awe and inspired by you both. And I can't wait for the next film and to be able to promote it and share that message. So there are some comments that are coming in, and so we'll make sure to answer those if we don't get to them in this session. I promise we'll follow up and make sure that if you have questions about the film, how to access them, about mental health, we want to help connect you to answers and to the information that you need. So, so with that being said, Trish and Kayla, thank you. And really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And with that being
Okay. You're out?
okay. All right. Goodbye,
Okay.
all.
Bye. Thank you.